When Joel and Clementine break up, they deal with it in different ways. Joel tries to win her back with a necklace, while Clementine undergoes a medical procedure to erase him from her memory. When Joel finds out what she's done, he decides to go through the same procedure, but changes his mind part of the way through. As the world around him disappears, Joel is trapped between peace, pain, and the eternal sunshine of the spotless mind.
Welcome to Movie Friends. My name is Seth.
And I'm Michelle.
Today we're talking about Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind from 2004. Directed by Michel Gondry, written by Charlie Kaufman, cinematography by Ellen Kuras, composed by John Bryan, edited by Valdis Oscarsdottir, costume design by Melissa Toth. Starring Jim Carrey, Kate Winslet, Kirsten Dunst, Elijah Wood, Mark Ruffalo, and Tom Wilkinson. Michelle, what's going on?
How are you, Seth?
I'm doing great. That was the first time I think I've ever read through all the credits without having to repeat everything. And I even got Valdis Oscarsdottir.
I know. You should have saw my face. I was very impressed. And no burp.
No burps yet.
Yeah, but, during the opening spiel. Very good, Seth. Very good.
Thank you. It's warm, but
Yeah.
for no reason, I've decided to come in costume and wear my beanie for Joel Barish.
That's right.
So by the end of this, I'm going to be pretty
Yeah,
sweaty.
maybe it'll just pop off. Remember those fun rubber things that you would
Yes.
turn and they pop off the desk?
It's a half circle.
Yes.
You turn it inside out.
Yep. So it's kind of like your beanie. It's going to do that to your head.
Those were big. The sticky hands were big.
Yeah, the sticky hands were fun until it got hair in it.
And then the sea cucumber thing that I was talking to you and Krista about the other day.
Yeah,
I don't know if anyone remembers this.
Yeah, I have PTSD on that one.
Why?
I popped it on my aunt's couch and got in trouble.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know how you pop one of those.
I couldn't tell you how I did it, but I got in trouble for it. It wasn't a good time. I mean, I got another one, but I was much more careful with it.
Sometimes crazy things happen with kids, man.
That's it. I know.
There was one time where my mom was driving with my son, who at the time was maybe 3, maybe 4, very young though. And he had found a glow stick and she didn't know that he had it and he broke it. How can you break a glow stick? You know what I'm saying? And he had broken it above his head. So it got all in his eyes. So she pulled over and was flushing his eyes out and, called EMS and he was fine, totally fine. But
wow.
Moral of the story is kids will find a way to break things. So just
true.
Keep them away from everything.
And keep an eye on them, right?
Hey, we would like to keep an eye on you at our live show this September 21st, Long Island, New York. We're going to be covering Space Jam, and we would love it if you would come.
That's soon.
It's soon. It's free. It might be the last one we ever do, folks.
That's true. So make it count.
You don't have to, but you can RSVP through a link on our website, moviefriendspodcast.com. Right at the top.
I think you should, though.
Well, you don't have to. I just don't want somebody that day to be like, I can't go.
Oh, yeah.
I never RSVP'd.
We highly encourage.
We highly encourage it.
Mm-hmm.
Something else we highly encourage are emails, and we got 2.
We did? We got 2?
We did. First one, this is an email. Subject line is Man on the Moon, and it says, really enjoyed the podcast. I'm a huge Dr. Mario fan, so much so that when I lived in Albuquerque and needed hernia surgery a few years back, I requested Mario Leyba perform the surgery. He was awesome. And then this person included a photo of Dr. Mario Leyba, who is in fact a surgeon near Albuquerque.
Who is this from?
And this is an email from Stephen M. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for listening. And I'm
Yes.
so glad you love Dr. Mario.
I hope the hernia is good.
Yeah.
You know,
How do hernias work?
a little bit of your stomach, no, a little bit of your intestine pops through itself,
It
pops through
pops
the
out, right?
lining.
And then you can like poke it back in to feel better.
No, I think if you poke it back in, you will scream in excruciating pain.
I was just talking about hernias with my friend
Yeah.
like yesterday. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I just watched the episode of Friends where Joey gets a hernia
Mm-hmm.
and he has to like apply pressure in order to
Mm-hmm.
make himself feel better. So isn't that just kind of like poking it back in?
No, I don't think so. It's a surgery.
No, I
But
know
I
it.
think
No,
if
no,
you
no.
get
But in the time
one,
being,
you're like prone to multiples.
they stick out, right? You could
So
see it through the
hopefully,
stomach.
no,
Okay.
that's a herniated belly button. If you can see a
What? A
hernia,
herniated belly button?
anyway,
I don't think so, Seth.
Stephen M., I hope that your intestines are intact.
Hope they're not poking out.
Got another email. Subject line is also Man on the Moon.
Wow.
And I'm not going to lie, I teared up a little bit when I read this one. So now that I've raised the
Yeah, well, now let me get the waterworks
expectations
pumping.
too
Okay.
high. This one says, Hi, movie friends. Happy Jim Lie to you.
Oh, thank you.
I thought this was a strong opener for the month. I went in knowing nothing about the movie and nothing about Andy Kaufman beyond the lyrics to the REM song, which was always on the radio when I was about 14 to 15. And I'm glad for that because this was a wild ride. For example, I had no idea that wrestling would be a significant plot point. Despite this, I had a good time watching. So I think that this person is anti wrestling a little.
Really? I'm not getting that.
No?
No, I mean, I'm not. Okay, continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, I've been meaning to tell you that I finished Freaks and Geeks and Weirdcast and really enjoyed both the show and pod. And I'm bummed that both are over. Freaks and Geeks had been on my watch list for a long time and it was great. So I'm glad that I've finally seen it. But the best part was getting to watch along with you two.
Oh, man.
Your movie friend, Kate.
Kate always gets me in the emotional
I know.
way.
There's just something, she's got a way with words.
But like, Kate, you have a great point. Weirdcast is pretty special.
It's great. Yeah. First show that
Yeah.
we finished.
I know that's our Patreon only show that you can binge. So you can binge the first season of Freaks and Geeks and then binge Weirdcast.
Yes. And as I have confirmed after 15 minutes of internet research, we are the only podcast that has done every episode of Freaks and Geeks. So if you're a fan out there, it is worth it. Patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. It helps support the show. We appreciate it so much. And then, yeah, you get to watch Freaks and Geeks and listen along episode by episode with us.
Yeah, you can learn about us. We talk
Yeah,
about
who wouldn't want to do
some
that?
things on that show.
So before we talk about some things on this show, we write down our rating, our guess at a rating for each other's score before we start. And Michelle just gave a look of, oh no, I don't have a pencil.
I got a pen back this week.
Oh, nice.
We're not trusting the mechanical
The
pencil
mechanical
anymore.
pencil is gone. Thank God.
Yeah.
All right. I haven't thought about this yet, but I feel okay. All right.
I wish I had the click sound.
Well, that's
Can you
what
hear
I always
this?
do. I always do this.
Can you hear this?
Barely.
Ew, it sounds like a mouth noise. That's not my mouth.
Ew.
It's pen noise. Okay.
Yeah, that was weird, guys. Michelle just like leaned in and went blah 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 blah. Blah.
Gross. Don't even.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm in. Are you in?
Locked in.
All right. The scores are locked in until the end of the show. So normally when we watch a film for the first time, we would record our pre-watch thoughts. But this is a film that Michelle and I have both seen several times. And my question, no? You haven't seen this several times? No?
No, it turns out I haven't.
Wait a second. Last time you said that you owned the DVD.
Yeah. I probably just owned it.
Oh. Oh my God.
I know. Sorry. I didn't mean to shake my head and interrupt your nice little flow of words there. Continue, though.
Wait, so you owned the DVD, but you had never seen it until now?
Well, no. I've seen it once,
Oh, okay. Got it.
but I
Okay.
haven't seen it a lot of times. I think I
All right.
just bought it just to have it.
Sure, of course.
Yeah,
Looks good on the old shelf.
it does.
Hmm.
Yeah. Hmm.
Do you remember when you saw it? Like, would you have seen this in theaters?
No, I don't think I saw it in theaters. I think it was probably I rented it and then I probably purchased the DVD,
Hmm.
but I have only seen this once. And it was when it came, so like 20 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
And I
D-
probably watched it with whoever I was with at the time.
yeah.
So,
And
you
it
know,
caused you to break up.
yeah, probably led to it subconsciously. Yeah, but I remember being more confused.
Okay.
And then this time around, I'm like, oh,
It's not
easy
confusing.
peasy.
Hmm.
No. Hmm.
Yep. I
You've seen
had,
this a bunch of times?
yes, and I had almost the same exact experience where I sit down to watch it. Every light is off.
Mm-hmm.
I've got like
Mm-hmm.
my notes ready. I'm ready to roll. And then I had to pause it to pee or something. And I was like, oh my God, there's 20 minutes left? Wait, this
Yeah.
whole thing takes place in one night?
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, like
Right.
totally, it was a totally different experience. Maybe I'm just
Yeah.
older now and it didn't seem as confusing.
I
But
know.
yeah, it's for a movie that's really not straightforward. I feel like I took it very straightforward this time around.
I had no problem following this.
Yeah.
Everything made sense to me.
All right, the
And
episode is
again,
over.
and the episode's done, guys. That's it.
That's it.
The only thing is I really wanted to watch this with Aunt,
Yeah.
but I ran out of time. And
Mm,
so he wasn't around to watch this because he's never seen it. And I would have loved his perspective on it. And I know
sure.
I can go back and watch it with him, but like,
Yeah. I
you
don't
know,
think this is, and people might disagree, but like this does not feel like a movie that I'm throwing on.
no. Mm-mm.
And nothing bad about it. But to me, there's like throw on movies, and then there are I'm going to sit down and watch this movie.
Yeah, this isn't a throw on.
I have a lot of thoughts about this movie. I think the biggest one is like men are told to share their feelings and to be open, right? Because it's
W-
good.
when in general
Yeah,
in
just in
today's
general, it's like
world?
men are
Oh, okay.
encouraged to be open and share their
Mhm.
feelings and talk about mental health, like all that different stuff, right? And then you get Jim Carrey in this movie, and people are just so like whiny and annoying about him, and like the idea of this type of character like needing a woman to save him and like be his mommy. And I know that that's kind of like a weird takeaway from it, but I was just like we want people to be open, honest with themselves,
Mhm.
as long as they're not whiny and pathetic, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I don't know. I felt more for Joel this time around. Like I really felt bad for him.
Wow, that is such a
I know it's a weird thing
what
to
a
take away,
perspective.
and I think it came from reading through all the 1 star and 3 star reviews that were
Okay, that
just
makes
like
sense. Yeah.
just bashing this idea of like the mid 2000s hipster pathetic guy and the women who save them, right? And this film came out before the term manic pixie dream girl was
Mm. Mhm.
coined by Nathan Rabin in his
Mm.
review for Elizabethtown. But this film certainly contributed to that growing idea in like films that were made around this time of like here's this like pathetic dude like Garden State,
Yeah.
Elizabethtown, Eternal
Mhm.
Sunshine, Away We Go. It's like here's this dude who's like sad and a little weird, and then here's the even weirder woman who makes him feel like life is living. To me, it's like, so what? Sometimes
Yeah, I
people are
mean,
whiny and annoying.
I know this is mostly it is from Joel's perspective,
Mhm.
but isn't he saving her as much?
I don't know. I don't know because so much of what we see of Clementine is in his mind
So it's his perspective of her.
and it's his version of her.
That's
And
true.
I don't think that it's all false. Like, I don't think that every memory of her is false, but like, I feel like the Clementine that we see in the real world, like when she's with Patrick and prior to getting the memory erased, I feel like she's a little different from the Clementine in Joel's mind.
Right. But then when they both meet up in Montauk
Mm-hmm.
and they have this connection of like, I don't know why, but wait, no, it's like a subconscious connection.
Mm-hmm.
She's there for a reason too.
Yeah.
And like, what is wrong with we're just seeing a portion of Joel's life that has to do with his love life?
Right.
Does this really save him? I actually hate this. I hate
What?
it.
What? The movie?
No, this whole thought for
Oh,
some reason it's like really bothering me. Not the way you said it, but just I get what you're saying. I just don't agree with. That's not how I took this. That
yeah.
he needed saving, which
No,
usually I
I'm
can
not
see that
saying that
perspective.
either. I'm
No,
not
I
saying that either.
know.
I'm just saying like this type of, this movie comes out in 2004
Yeah.
and people love it. But looking back on it now, and I think it might be people who might be younger than us, I don't know, but looking back on it, it's viewed in this like frozen time period that's like cringy and weird now. Instead of being honest and emotional, it's just viewed as like, well, look at this man child who needs quirky weird girl to save him. And yeah, I just I just don't see it that way.
Same. I mean,
Like, I
maybe
think
that says something for my age then.
both of them are shown to be like not great people, but I also don't think that they're both shown to be bad people.
We also don't really get a lot of Joel's life. We
Mm-hmm.
don't know what he does for a living.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see his family life minus his those close friends. Like this is strictly just about a year in the life of Joel and his
Mm-hmm.
relationship with Clementine.
Yeah.
Like to me it wasn't like he needed saving.
Yeah.
It was just like, "Oh my gosh, my girlfriend erased me." I'm more obsessed with like that thought process of having a memory erased and then you choosing to then have them erased. That is more interesting to me because that brings in the sci-fi element of it.
Right. Would you do that?
I had that question for you. The only thing I thought of is I think I would like feelings of fear erased.
Hmm.
And so an example is I don't love to drive.
Mm-hmm.
And the furthest I've driven by myself is to like Long Island City. Like I've never driven throughout New York City. I've never driven upstate by myself or go on a long road trip by myself. And it's almost, and I have this fear behind it. And I wish I could have that removed.
Hmm.
And so then I would drive upstate by myself for,
Right.
I don't know why, but yeah,
Right.
I wouldn't be anxious about it. But what about you? Would you have a memory erased? Because it shapes you. So, and
Yeah.
every memory is a lesson, right? But would you have a feeling erased around
No,
something?
not so much. No. I'm always like a big like no regrets kind of a person
No regrets.
because like I I didn't know what my life was going to be 5 years ago,
Right.
and 5 years before that I had no idea. Like
Yeah.
every 5 years I find myself in this completely different life and place, and
Yeah.
so I have no idea what choices and people like led to those things.
Right.
So if my life was more like two paths, it would be easier,
Mm-hmm.
to be like,
Yeah.
well, my life could have gone this way and it didn't. But it's just gone so many different forks that
Yeah.
I ain't messing with time. If you gave me a time machine, I would only go forward. I would never go back because I would,
No,
it would just
you said you wanted to go and see like Joan of Arc. We've
well,
talked about
yeah,
this.
Joan of Arc and JFK and all the assassinations. Yes, but
Yes,
like
the assassination
I wouldn't
tour.
go back into my own life because I
Yeah,
would be
right.
too afraid of screwing up one little thing. And
Well, it's the butterfly effect, right?
absolutely. So with
Yeah.
this, erasing a whole person, no. And I think that the movie like has a full arc for that idea in that it ends with Kirsten Dunst's character, Mary, sending all the people their files back. And it's like, well, this ain't happening anymore,
Mm-hmm.
basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Talking about Clementine and how she is, I had a thought that I sent to you earlier, because watching it this time, I know that we start at the end, and Clementine just seems so aggressive with Joel. And it always kind of bothered me because I was like, what is wrong with her? And I realized this time around that, like, both of them feel like something is wrong.
Yeah.
And Joel is like, I skipped work today. I don't know why. I never do that. I'm not impulsive. And he like runs to the train to Montauk. And she goes to Montauk. And Joel says, I can't make eye contact with women that I don't know. And he's looking at Clementine on the train. And he also says, why do I fall in love with people that show me any? I don't think he does. I think that he's being hard on himself. And he doesn't realize that he feels this huge attraction to her because he had this relationship with her. And then a big point throughout the movie is Joel saying, you just sleep with people to get them to like you. And she says, no, I don't. And she's like adamant that she doesn't do that. But then that first day, which is really the end, she is like so aggressively trying to get him to sleep over and to come on to him. And it always like confused me until this time around. And I was like, oh my God, she doesn't just sleep with people to get them to like her. She's trying to sleep with him because they don't know it anymore, but they can still
Yeah.
feel it. They're still in that relationship, even though they've had
Right.
their minds erased.
Right. And she, I think, wants to sleep with him because she's attracted to him. There's a
Mm-hmm.
draw there. She doesn't sleep with everybody. It's with
Right.
people who she has that connection with.
Right.
And
But when you watch the movie for the first time and you see her being so, aggressively coming on to him, and then later on he says, "Oh, well, you just do this." It tricks you into thinking, "Oh, this is we just saw it. We just saw it in the beginning, right?"
yeah, I wish I remembered how I felt the first time.
I know, right?
See if we can go back in time.
Right, you can erase this movie because you can't watch this movie the same way twice,
No.
which is a
No.
bummer.
But in terms of her being aggressive, and I know this, we're seeing it from Joel's perspective, especially in his memories of when they meet for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it is just his portrayal of her being aggressive because she
Mm.
takes the chicken right off his plate.
Yeah,
She says, let's go into the beach house.
yeah.
She is that person who's like the energy, the life force, who's so wild.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was like represented on the train as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Hmm.
I like her. Like I like
Oh,
Clementine,
yeah.
but I think after her brain is erased, her memory is erased. When she's with Patrick, she's acting like slightly erratic, and she doesn't know why. And like that's, I
Yeah.
think the main thing is like this shows that having this done to you isn't like a good thing. And like even Joel, he's doing things and he doesn't know why he's doing them. He doesn't know
Yeah.
why he feels off. He doesn't know why he skips work. He can't explain all of this stuff. And so it's like a cool examination of like your heart versus your head.
Yes.
So they can erase the head, but they can't erase like the heart and the physical, the muscle memory.
Yeah. And then it also can bring into the conversation of soulmates.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
something's meant to be, it is meant to be.
Yep. Do you know how the movie was originally going to end?
I read that Joel and her weren't going to end up together.
Kind of. So the original idea was that Mary's character was going to, she had written a book that she wanted to like get published or something. It was going to be called Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and it was going to detail like everything that happened with the doctor, and you would find out that Joel and Clementine have had each other erased 15 times over the years because they just keep coming back to each other.
Right.
Yeah. And
Wow.
and the very very end shot as they're running away on the beach, does like two or three jump cuts to where they're further down the beach, and then it jumps and they're back in the same position, and then they run forward and then they're back. And so I don't know, putting those two things together, it would appear the movie is telling us like this is going to keep happening with them. Yeah. Maybe because they're soulmates.
Right. It's a love story. I mean, this really is a love story.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. It's messy, but
love is messy.
But love is messy, and if you only focused on the breakup parts of it, you know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, like, you know, you and Anthony just celebrated, what, 9 years?
9 years and 16 years together. 9 years married, 16 years together, yeah.
So let's say you wake up tomorrow and he's nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
You're going to find him.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. And hopefully he remembers who I am.
Well, oh man, can you imagine?
I mean, wow.
I
I think if I like grabbed Ant, like in this hypothetical, I mean, maybe he was living a different life, but I think if I approached him and was like, listen, this is what's going on here.
Yeah.
I think he might believe me. If he approached me, vice versa, I'd be like, get the fuck out of here.
I was just thinking about that with my wife, and I was like, if I walked up to her in the store and I was like, your mind has been erased.
Yeah, no.
You and I have actually been together for like 17 years. I don't think she would respond well, but I gotta tell you, I'm a sucker. If someone walked up to me, you know, I've always, like, when I was a kid, I would fantasize about what sequence of words I would need to say to myself if future self came back.
I used to think that too.
Future Seth, I mean.
Yes.
It would be my future self. But
Yes. Future Mitch, future Seth.
Yeah, like if you went back and you had to convince yourself in like 5 seconds, hey, this is me, what would you say to that person?
Yeah, you'd have to lay out some facts.
Mm-hmm.
That's what would have to get me. It's like, tell me facts about me.
Right.
But like super deep facts, because you can find anything on the internet.
Sure, absolutely. Right. So yeah, I guess in a roundabout way, I'm also like coming to Clementine's defense too. Like I'm coming to both of their defenses.
Absolutely.
After this movie. Yeah. Where do you want to go from here?
Well, why don't we start with Jim Carrey, because it is Jim Lai.
So this is Jim Carrey month, Jim Lai. We're going through the
is.
films of Jim Carrey. And how did you feel about him as Joel Barish?
Well, we started the month with Man on the Moon. And so Jim portraying Andy Kaufman. And here we have him as in a very serious role.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get to the goofy side of Jim. It's coming, friends. Mm-hmm. I feel like when people hear you're doing Jim Carrey month, I think they automatically think of his comedic roles.
Right.
And we have started with like kind of two serious ones.
Yes.
In a way.
Yes.
I thought he did a great job. And I appreciate when the funny guy is serious and we can see the range. And Jim Carrey can do range.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even within his comedic roles, he can go back and
forth. Yeah. So I thought he did a great job in this. I had fun reading about how the director pretty much let everybody else improvise and treat it as a comedy, but Jim was the only one who wasn't allowed to improvise and had to treat it as a drama.
Yes.
Which is... I can only find to be so frustrating if you're Jim Carrey.
Yes, I understand why they would do that.
Yeah.
These are improvised scenes that were then written into the script. So everything that we are seeing wasn't improvised in the take that we're seeing. It was improvised in rehearsals, or like a few little things here and there were added in. Mark Ruffalo scaring Kirsten Dunst was added in a different scare each time. Clementine disappearing at the parade. They didn't tell Jim about that. Clementine punching Joel. That was but beyond that, you have such precise camera work that like you can't be just going willy-nilly in each take and improvising. So I can tell why Gondry was like, all right, everybody have fun out there. Jim Carrey, you can't. Like, I'm sorry. We've got, shots where you're going to be changing clothes and be sitting in one place and then standing
Yeah.
in another in the span of 3 seconds, and just very technical stuff going on. So you
Yeah,
have to rein him in.
and when we talked about Jim and Andy, the doc that pairs with Man on the Moon last week, but Jim briefly talks about getting the role for Eternal Sunshine and
Yes.
how when he first meets Gondry and Gondry's like, "You're so broken right now. You need to stay this way." And so Jim stayed in this heartbreak state of mind and didn't get help, and he talks about how messed up the industry is for
Right.
that.
Right.
Yeah. I was wondering because I know he went so method for the Andy Kaufman role, like, what was his mindset for this role? Like, now
Right.
I'm just looking at Jim in a whole different light every role he takes on, and he briefly does touch upon that about how he really does become a part of these people, or these people are reflected through his, portrayal.
Yeah. I don't think he's funny in this at all. I think that the only
No.
humor that comes from the character of Joel is because of the people around him.
Yes.
Even when we get to baby Joel, I
Yeah.
I find that more scary, like to be lost in one's own like child memories,
Yeah.
because he kind of loses it for a minute, like he's not
Yeah.
Joel anymore. I didn't find that to be funny. I was just like, this is like bizarre.
It was bizarre, and I love the use of practical effect in
Oh
that.
yeah.
That was so
Yeah.
good, and we
Doing
love
forced
practical effects.
perspective
Oh, man.
to show him as smaller and Kate Winslet as
Right?
big. And
The
I loved
table.
Kate Winslet in that scene where she's just like, "Oh my god, look at this dress! Oh my god, this is
I
I
know.
love it. I love this kitchen."
I love this wallpaper. She was great. Clementine was so great in
Yeah.
that. Yeah, no, and then the tub of them,
Hmm.
bathing in the tub. I mean,
Hmm.
that stuff was, like, visually really appealing, but I didn't find it funny.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that he does a great job here of
Yeah.
playing it. It's just like, because the world is fanciful and weird and sci-fi, like you said, that a lot of the stuff seems a little light, like lighthearted. But I don't think Joel is funny once
No.
in this
And, like,
movie.
and on that too, I mean, dreams are weird, right?
Yeah.
Dreams are never clear, and they're fantastical, and
Hmm.
can't make sense of them, and so there's, like, some definitely uncomfortable parts, but it's supposed to feel that way.
Yes. This director, Michel Gondry, he did another film 2 years later called The Science of Sleep, which I actually really recommend that you watch because you love dreams
I
and
do.
practical effects and all this stuff. Um, it's really cool. It's kind of like this, but more so like heavy
Mm.
on the dream stuff.
Mhm.
And in this movie, I noticed this time around, I took a lot of different notes. All of the times that dreams are referenced, people are saying, wake up. And come to find out, one of the ideas for the ending was that this would all be in Clementine's head. And they ended up pivoting from that. There were a few different endings that they had, but those little seeds are still there in the
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
As far as Jim Carrey in this role, and this was a huge movie at the time. Listeners, if you are young people and you were not, 15 to 25 when this movie came out, you cannot appreciate how this was like, this just became everyone's life. And yeah, there's a great meme that's like, uh, when you're walking out of the theater and like you're downloading the new personality that you're gonna have based on the movie you just watched.
That's
and,
great. That's
and then
great.
the other phrase that I love is, I'm not the same person I was one movie ago.
Mm.
That
Mhm.
was this movie for
Yeah.
that generation, for better or for worse, and this was the time, it was like the rise of the hipster indie things. Were moving from like, you know Papa Roach, Mudvayne, ball necklace and spiky hair into like sweaters and beanies, and that became the flavor of like the subculture. And so films like this put those people like at the forefront in like in movies. And so you were like seeing yourself on screen and you were listening to music that you had actually listened to. And it was very cool to see like at that time. But Jim Carrey, I think, was a big reason why this movie worked for that audience. And in my theory is that 1994, Jim does his 3 huge movies where he becomes the biggest movie star in the world. This movie comes out 10 years later. And so the generation of kids who were so endeared to him and obsessed with him, he kind of grows up with them. So now, they're 20 to 25 or 17 to 25, whatever. And this guy who like already means so much to them is now doing this heartfelt story about breaking up where he's playing a hipster and everyone is a hipster. And it's very much like, hey, and I don't think he's trying to do this, but it's like, hey kids, I'm just like you. And
Yeah.
here's your new personality. Boom. And
It also,
I think
to
that's
add
what,
on to that, if you grow up at the same time, you experience Titanic and you're obsessed with Kate Winslet. And so
absolutely.
you have this combination of Jim and Kate, and it's like you've been waiting your whole life for this.
Absolutely. I mean,
I
it's
mean,
the
that's how I felt.
Titanic of
I remember that
hipster
feeling. Oh,
indie
yeah.
romance movies.
Absolutely.
You know, you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, I told you, I saw Titanic, I think 6 to 10 times in theaters.
Yeah.
Had both VHS tapes, t-shirts, posters.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with Titanic.
Just as heartbreaking, maybe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So Kate Winslet, speaking of Titanic, pretty amazing in that I always forget that she's British.
Yeah.
Never remember that because her accent work is so good.
It's real good. She's talented, that one.
There was a big age difference here. So she was only 29 in this movie.
And he was what, 42, right?
42.
Yeah.
And like, he looks his age, but I just feel like looking at her, I'm like, you're only 29?
Yeah.
You're only 29 in this.
Yeah.
That's so wild to me. I believe,
Yeah.
if they said she was 35 in this, I'd be like, sure, that makes sense. And not that she looks old for her age, but
Yeah.
I just think of Kate Winslet as this like institution,
Yeah.
kind of a
Yeah.
thing. And so that she did this at that age, it's really impressive.
Yeah. She was great.
What did you think about her wigs?
I loved it.
Great looking wigs.
And loved them. I mean,
Yeah.
I loved every color. Did you have a favorite color that she sported?
Well, when they're in Joel's childhood and she has the red hair, but it's like very, very straight and styled. Yeah. I was like, oh man, your hair the rest of this movie is kind of a mess.
Yeah. Well, it kind of like matches her normal,
but it's realistic.
Everyday wear.
Like,
yes, it is.
People every day don't look like their hair is done all the time.
Right.
So it's a good contrast. Like it makes the rest of the wigs look better, I think. Yeah. That wig, because that looks like a wig.
Yeah.
Do I have a favorite color?
She said red was her favorite. That's what I've read.
I'm a big fan of green hair, and no one does green hair anymore. Everyone is into like nowadays, like people will do purple, they'll do pink, red. Occasionally you'll still see like a bluish purple thing, but nobody's doing green anymore.
Green is so hard because it fades to like that yellow. It looks like chlorine got in your hair.
Yeah. I guess to me, like growing up, as a 6-year-old punk watching MTV, green hair was like, that can't be confused with anything. Like if you have green hair, you're like, I'm a punk, leave me alone.
That's true. Yes.
No one is rocking green hair to like go to the Oscars. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with the other colors, but I think the green is my favorite, probably.
The green's your favorite. Yeah.
Did you notice the pattern of her hair?
In what way?
So if we start at the actual beginning when they meet, it's green, and then it goes to red, and then orange, and then blue in the progress of their relationship. And so it's kind of like green is like, renewal and beginning, and then red is like passionate part of the relationship, and then orange is like fall when things are starting to wither, and then the blue is winter when it's like over.
I like that. I think if I would have watched this again, I probably would have started to put some meaning behind the hair color when I'm seeing it.
I didn't have time to do this twice. And so, like I said, I was like ready. So I'm like
Yeah.
writing every down,
Yeah.
every tiny little, I'm like, I'm going to make sense of this movie finally. And then I felt like, I was like, oh, I'm like
Oh,
over
I actually don't
prepared.
need these
Yeah.
notes because I
Yeah.
get it. Yeah. I feel it deep in my soul.
She said that this was her favorite role ever.
I love that. And I hope she had a good experience with Jim. It sounded like they got along pretty well.
Mhm.
So that makes me happy.
Did you feel like they had chemistry together, like as a romantic couple?
I did,
Hmm.
but not like the chemistry that maybe I'm used to seeing. And I
Hmm.
don't know if I can articulate that correctly
Yeah.
to you. I think both of them did a great job. And I think it's believable for these two people to have matched up. But it's not like this automatic chemistry. It just feels a little messy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's done on purpose.
Yeah. I think because Joel is so like just withdrawn and depressed, and Carrie is playing him so dramatic,
Yeah.
and then telling the story out of order, and thinking about all of the weird feelings behind when they meet in Montauk, like all of that stuff. I feel like it kind of gets skewed in there. But one of the criticisms that I saw over and over and over again was that they don't have any chemistry.
Wow. I mean,
And
it's like it's hard to see it because we don't see them in real time except for the beginning, but that it almost needs to be treated separately, but also it's everything, right? Because
yeah,
every dream we're seeing is just what he's remembering and they're constantly
right.
running and trying to escape. So it's kind of difficult. I saw that there was a deleted scene with Naomi Watts as his ex-wife. I mean his fiance.
Um, Not Naomi Watts.
Naomi, what's her
Who
name?
plays Gray on Grey's Anatomy?
Oh my God, you're right. You're right. Her name was Naomi in the movie. She was
Yes,
cast.
yes.
So Ellen Pompeo was going to play Jim's fiance, Naomi,
Hmm.
but that scene was cut. But I wonder if we saw that at all. If would we see this side of him? I don't know. I don't know. It would be
Hmm.
like weird if to see it. Would we see it as a dream or a memory, or
Right,
would we see it in real life and then see how he is in a relationship before he met Clementine?
right, right,
Do
right,
you know what
right,
I'm
right.
saying?
Yeah. Hmm. Like if
Yeah.
it's included in that once we start
Right.
the night. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that they cut that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
I think the movie's totally full
Yes.
without it.
Yes.
Um and it adds a little mystery, like when he's talking about Naomi the few times throughout the movie. You're kind of like, "Wait, what?" Like when at one point when we drop in with them and she's talking about like, "Oh, I didn't know you were married," and he's like, "I'm not married." And then in your head you're like, "Wait, is he married this whole time?"
Yeah.
Like it just adds like a little layer of confusion.
Yeah.
And I think
Right.
this movie works well, the first time you're
Yeah.
watching it. It's like, "Whoa, what is happening?" So Elijah Wood is in this.
A baby.
23, I
I
believe.
I think
Kirsten was
he
22 and he was 23.
yeah, I mean, he looks so young to me.
Mm-hmm.
I texted Seth a question if he remembered the movie North,
Oh,
and particularly the scene where he's in the igloo.
yeah. Yes.
That scene lives rent free. That movie lives rent free. I'm surprised I didn't do that as a schmovie. Like to me, that's a schmovie.
Oh,
Absolute,
absolutely.
right?
Yes.
Like that's a
North is, yeah.
schmovie. Yeah. But that's all I think of. I know people think of him because of Lord of the Rings, but to me, he's North.
I obviously think of him for Frodo, of course. One of
Sh-
the greatest
I'm
achievements in film history is the original, the three Lord of the Rings movies, hands down. But I think of Elijah Wood as the film The Good Son, where he stars opposite Macaulay Culkin. I don't know if you know this one.
Oh, yes, I do.
And Macaulay Culkin is like a psychopath killer.
Yes.
And they're
This
both like 8 years old.
this movie is insane. There was
It's
a time in my life where I was watching The Good Son and I was watching Simon Burke. Do you remember Simon Burke?
Simon Birch?
Simon Birch. Do you
Yeah.
remember the movie? Okay. There was a time when I was watching both of those movies like a lot.
Wow, what a double feature.
And both like really messed with my mind.
Simon Birch. Now that's a
Simon
movie
Birch.
that I would love to revisit, perhaps.
We should revisit that.
Holy moly.
Yeah, The Good Son and Simon Birch was just like this double feature that I would watch by myself, by the way, in my
That's so
bedroom. Like
weird.
I have
That's so
with my
weird.
VHS, my TV that had the built-in VHS, the best.
Maybe you were like, all right, let's watch The Good Son. And then you get freaked out and be like, okay, let's watch Simon Birch.
But I'm still kind of freaked out a little bit.
Yeah, like, all right, I'm done watching a movie about a kid who kills somebody. Let's watch Simon Birch. Oh no.
No, right. Oh no. Exactly.
Anyway, Elijah Wood is in this, and I love how they obscure his face.
Yeah.
The first time you see him, it's after we see their supposed first meeting. We go 18 and a half minutes into the movie before the credits start, which is great because it's another thing that makes you kind of go, wait, what did I just watch? You know? And Elijah Wood knocks on the window and he's like, what are you doing here? And it totally sets you off balance. And then until he hears them say Patrick while he's sleeping, every other time that you see him in the movie, his face is, hidden a little bit, or he's turned the other way. And they do that really, really well.
Yeah. Yeah. Before the 18-minute mark, when we get into the credits, if they stopped there, that would make a great short.
Absolutely.
I think it's you can show that and have so much discussion around it, what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's a creep, total weirdo.
Yeah.
And Mark Ruffalo is also a creepy weirdo who at first seems appalled at what Patrick has done, but then starts laughing with him.
Yeah, because and plus, like, the fact that these two goonberries are sent to do this type of work, that also adds a level of just, you're fearful of this.
Mm-hmm.
It adds the scariness of this procedure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, they're both acting well. It's funny. It's interesting. Kirsten Dunst is super funny in this movie and interesting. That plot with her and the doctor,
I know,
is also very scary. Yeah, so it's like every step of the way they're like condemning this idea. I feel like, like no part of this is good. Even the doctor who you're trusting to do this, like, he has erased his girlfriend's mind but still works with her, and
he knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
He's just,
and she still loves him,
right?
Like, she can't not love him.
Also, like, what a joy to see Kirsten Dunst again, because we saw her in Little Women 94.
Oh, yeah.
So that was 10 years prior.
10 years, yeah.
And I was like, we need more Kirsten Dunst on this show. I need
Absolutely.
more of her.
And again, like, she's so young.
I know. She's a delight. She's a delight, though.
I'm like, oh my God, you and Elijah Wood are babies. Like, you are babies in this movie. And when Clementine kisses Patrick, she calls him baby boy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, that's because you're 29 and he's 22 years old. That would be quite the jump then, man.
Yeah.
So we started to kind of briefly touch on it, but the effects in this film, how did you feel?
I love it. I love, love, love everything. I love, as Seth said, and if you've listened before, like, I love dreams.
Yeah.
And I love when we can see them represented. And sometimes when you explain a dream, it's always like quirky and weird. Mm-hmm. And so then after watching this and reading about how they used practical effects, and I was like, yes. So that just like upped it for me. It was really cool. Because when you think about what they've done, and then you read about how they did it, you're like, awesome.
Yeah, it's great. There are a few digital shots, you know, when Clementine's walking down the street and the cars are falling out of nowhere.
Yes.
Obviously, some of the faces are blurred. People disappear while they're still in the frame. So it's not 100% all practical, but a huge portion of it is. And it's very impressive if you can catch any kind of behind the scenes to show like how they did stuff, definitely look into it. You brought up the house with the waves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they like when the flooding of the house, they just built a house to have it like close to the shoreline to have the waves actually hit the house and flood it.
It's insane.
I mean, how is that cost? That's not cost. That can't be cost effective, but
Yeah,
you
I'm
know,
sure they didn't build an
no,
entire
they probably a
house.
portion of it
Yeah,
for the scene,
but
right?
still,
But
you would think like, okay, we'll build this in like a little tub and then just push water in.
right,
You know, like you could
right, a
simulate
dark
a
sound
wave.
stage or
Yeah.
something. Yeah,
Nope.
nope, nope. Let's get that actual house on the beach.
Yep. And
Yeah,
the ice was all real.
yeah.
The crack in the ice was real, which made me feel very, very nervous. I did not like that.
No.
It looks great, and I think it still holds up
Yeah.
20 years later. And I'm like, why don't they just do this more? It's the same question we always have. It's like,
Well, because
what?
it's easier, isn't it? Isn't it easier
I
to
guess,
just do
but it just
everything
doesn't
CGI
look.
and digital?
Yeah, it just doesn't look anything. And it's so like the movie is not afraid to be real scrubby. The
No.
scenes where Joel is walking down the hallways in the dark and there's just a light like on his face.
Yeah.
He's not lit from four directions. There's just a bright light on Jim
Did
Carrey's
you read
face.
how they tried to do natural light as
Yes.
much as possible and would
Yeah.
hide lights in like the pillows and they also did like handheld camera work,
Mm-hmm.
like really just used some kind of makeshift dollies. Like I really liked like that's like
Yes.
filmmaking,
I
right?
worked on a short and we used a wheelchair
Nice.
as a dolly.
Yeah.
And they did that in this one
Yep.
because they wanted it to not look perfect. And I love anytime someone
Yes.
is like, this is good enough, I'm all for it because when you watch the movie, I don't think once I stopped and thought, oh, that doesn't look very good.
Right.
Instead, I'm like, oh my God, how did they do that? Like,
Yeah.
it's just such a better,
Yeah.
yeah. So this movie's about Long Island,
Mm-hmm.
Rockville Center, Montauk. Have you ever taken the train out to Montauk?
I haven't.
Have you ever been to
No.
Montauk?
Yes. Have
Okay.
you?
I have not.
We knew this. When did we discuss
I
this?
think we talked about this with lighthouses before, but I've just never seen the point of going all the way out there just to turn around and come back.
Well, no, you don't just go out there to say you did it and turn around. But I will say, like, I love going to Montauk in February. That's my favorite time to go
Interesting.
because
Okay.
it's quiet, it's off season. I
Yeah.
love the beach in the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cold. Oh my gosh, it's so refreshing when that sea air hits your face and you could just smell the air. I love it. I
Yeah.
love the scent of sea air
I love the scent. Yes, I do. I do.
and I love the feeling. It's
I don't
great.
love the cold water or the
Oh, I
warm
love it. I always have to
water.
touch it. Anywhere I go, I have to like put my hands in the ocean.
Oh man. That's
Yeah.
like me with dead bodies at funerals.
What? Okay, that's a joke.
No. Touching the body at the funeral? You never do that? I think we've talked about this before on the show.
Our minds have been erased and we're like trying to no. I do not touch the bodies ever. Ever.
Oh, I
No,
always
no.
touch them. You have to.
No, no. You don't have to do anything. What
You
do you
look, I'm telling you, you and I have had this exact conversation before, like in this exact way, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, you just go up and like you touch their hand or, give it a little squeeze. You've never done that?
No, Seth.
I do that at every funeral I go to.
What sensation do you get out of it?
It's just a good reminder, that I'll be
Of?
dead one day. And
So you need to like feel what death is? Is that what it is?
maybe, yeah, yeah. But it's also like, I feel like it's also like respect for them.
Yeah, I think you could be respectful in your own way and just
Yeah. Like that's me. Like
that's
I'm,
your way of
yeah,
grieving in
like
a
I'm not
way.
doing it to be weird. Like I'm doing
No, no,
it
no,
to
I
like
know.
connect with that, the memory of that person. And like they're dead, but
Yeah.
I'm still going
Yeah.
to touch you. And
Yeah, I
so,
think
hey,
it's
anyway, if you're out
a
there, don't invite me to your funeral because I will grab your hand.
I also think it's really different than me touching the ocean, but
Hmm.
tomato tomato.
Come see, come sa.
That's
I don't know
right.
what that means. Come see or come sa? I don't know. I don't speak French.
I've never said that before.
You never said that?
No, I say potato, potato, tomato, tomato.
Well, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I looked up some of the names because I was just curious.
Yeah.
So lacuna Inc. Lacuna means an unfilled space or interval, a gap, a missing portion in a book or manuscript,
Ooh.
a cavity or depression in a bone. So I thought that was a good
That's
name for a
good.
company
Very
that
good.
steals your memories.
Yeah.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind comes from the poem Eloise to Abelard by Alexander Pope from 1717. It's based off of a story, true story, as far as I can tell, from like the 1100s.
Ooh.
Yes. It's about a woman named Eloise who has a child with a dude, Abelard, and she's forced to move to this nunnery. And after like decades apart, she writes him this incredibly long poem letter explaining like what her life has been. And so that line, the blameless vestal's lot, is like, oh, you know, if I were a good nun basically and my heart wasn't divided between you and God, you know, I would be happy basically.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the eternal sunshine of the spotless mind, but I don't have that because I'm torn between you. So looking into it, I looked into the poem for probably longer than I should have today, but everything that I read about it, I was like, it's a good title and basis for this whole idea of like, oh, like if I just could forget you, I'd be happy, but I just can't forget you no matter how hard I try. And then Bearish, Joel's last name is Bearish, which means quite thinly covered or bare, which I thought was kind of an
Oh, that's
interesting.
good.
Yeah, because he's so like raw and like emotional in the movie. And then for Clementine's last name, the closest I could find was either a dark-haired person or a person who comes from a dark place.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know we talked about it like a little bit, but you and I are both now mid-30s. We are not teenagers when this came out. And I know we can't remember exactly what it was like to watch this, but do you think that you feel differently about the romance and the heartache and stuff now that you're older?
I do. I think I look at it, I think probably, well, oh gosh, it's so hard to put words in my younger self.
Yeah.
2004. Oh,
Like
2000.
I feel like I watched this as a kid and I was like, this is the most romantic movie I've ever seen. Where
Oh, no.
now I watch it and I'm like, oh, this is incredibly dark and not depressing. And I still think it's romantic, but I don't view this as like a positive experience or movie.
Okay. All right. This came out in March
Yeah.
of 2004. So my dad was losing weight. We had no idea. And I was not with my high school boyfriend. So I was a single person. And I was in between and going through that heartache because we just went through a breakup. So watching this, and I know I watched it probably soon after the DVD release, probably. So like summer. When did DVDs come out compared to like theatrical releases?
Oof, that's another good question.
Okay. Well, whenever. So we're
Yeah.
talking like the fall. So depending, I probably was not in a great mindset.
Right.
So I probably was like, oh, I would love the idea of having memories erased.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I view it and I'm like, wow, I have such a different of like, just more inquisitive about love and the idea of having memories erased and how kind of like the wisdom you gain as you get older. Like, no, I wouldn't want to erase anything
Mm-hmm.
because of all the lessons I've learned.
Right.
And also, I just view this more of we need to discuss mental health, and these two would probably benefit from therapy.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
you know, so you view it like with these weird adult eyes, but, and I just understood it more this time around.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, not confusing. Not as confusing.
Not confusing at all.
I sat down to watch this and I thought, okay, I know that we do a lot of time jumps and we're moving back and forth and there's like overlapping. And then, yeah, I was like, oh, no, it's actually, you just have to remember that they start with his most recent memories and
Yep.
they work backwards.
But like it makes sense. He does say that. And like
Yeah.
once you figure out like the first 18 minutes is like present day,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, oh. And did you read that like Gondry stated how after this movie was made, he watched it and he didn't really get it and he didn't
I
like
saw
it?
that his girlfriend left him
Right. So
and
he
so he
wasn't.
didn't watch it or like he couldn't handle it or something.
Yeah, and how the way it was put together, it didn't really make sense to him. And I'm like, this actually makes a lot of sense. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know why I had such clarity with this. No
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah,
No
me either.
problems.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I just want to talk about David Cross.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Okay. Rob.
Why? Why? Like, we love David Cross. Give me a Tobias anytime,
Of
right?
course.
So not necessary.
You know, Tracy Morgan originally had a bit part in this
Yeah.
as Joel's neighbor. Ellen Pompeo was
Right.
originally in
Yeah.
4 scenes. I think I can see a world where this is a story populated with more like weird little characters.
Yeah.
But when you like remove those two and we're left with like a smaller group of characters, like I feel like Rob fits with Patrick and the
Yes.
other people,
And
like
Stan.
it's just like
Yeah.
interesting little guys. But yeah, like cutting the cast down even by a few people makes it less of that movie. Yeah, I like David Cross. He's just such a jerk in this
I know.
movie.
And him and Carrie, like, we see them argue. He smokes a lot of weed,
Mm-hmm.
but we never fully go there because we can't. Let's focus on Joel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, why?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
It doesn't add anything.
Have you seen any other Charlie Kaufman films?
I don't think so. Let me see. Isn't it so weird how we keep saying like the same words week to week, like Kaufman again?
Oh yeah, that's true.
Not
Oh,
related to Andy, but it's
that's
yeah, it's just a weird overlap.
okay. You need to say that, but in a to them way, not to me way.
Why? Just keep it. I love when we add sidebar things in.
Okay, all right, I'll keep it in.
You can keep it in. Not everything
That is
has
really
to.
weird, though.
It is
Connecting
weird.
the Andy Kaufman movie to the Charlie Kaufman Jim Carrey movie.
I know. That's what I'm
That's
saying.
so
It's so weird.
Anyway, I think that you and I are the only ones who find it weird.
I
Like,
know.
we're like, everybody, look at these connections. Isn't this crazy? And everyone's like, no, not really.
I find connection with everything, though.
Yeah.
I think that's my
So-
beige flag. No, I haven't seen. I know Being John Malkovich is a big one. I've never seen that.
Yeah, that one's really great adaptation. Probably my favorite is Synecdoche, New York. I would love to talk about that one someday. I'm thinking of Ending Things is such a difficult watch for a lot of reasons, but it's still like a tremendous, tremendous movie. I also love Jessie Buckley, so that probably helps. But yeah, David Cross.
Yeah, I mean, I hope he had fun being a jerk.
David Cross, right into the show. Let us know. Did you have fun on the set of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
Yeah.
So this movie was made for $20 million, a whole 30 less than Man on the Moon. Go figure. And it goes on to make 74 million. And so,
That's good.
Yeah. More than triples its budget while having big stars, also up and coming stars, and insane practical effects for 20 million bucks. Like, that's amazing. Good for them.
Mm-hmm.
It has a 92 on Rotten Tomatoes, 4.2 on Letterboxd, 89 on Metacritic, and Ebert gave this 4 stars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, the people love it.
He was a fan. People love this. Yep. And I think more impressive with all of the practical stuff, they only took 3 months to make this. Wow. Pretty good.
Pretty good.
So we asked some friends on Twitter what they thought. Heather Stewart at Heather J. Stewart said, "This was a first watch for me earlier this year. Is this Carrey's best serious role? Or is it The Truman Show?"
Which, by the way, according to my time hop, last year at this time we were talking about The Truman Show.
Wow.
Yeah.
The connections continue.
I know. Another connection that no one cares about but us.
I think
I like Truman Show better.
it's hard to say because it's like the performance, right? So Carrey's performance.
Yeah, I'm going with Truman.
I think I'm still going with Truman Show.
Yeah.
I think maybe just overall that's
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Stu World Order at
Another stew?
Another stew?
We went from Stewart to Stewart.
Oh, okay. All right.
You know
all right.
Put me out to pasture. I'm sorry. I am quiet for the rest of the show. Okay, I'm sorry.
You're like you're in cryptid mode. You're like in conspiracy theory. You're seeing everything.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Stu World Order at SWO Productions says, "This was one of my favorite movies ever when it came out. It's slid down the list since then, but it still has some powerful moments."
Yeah.
And I agree. Clementine asking, "Am I ugly?"
Yeah.
Going back to Joel killing the bird because the kids are pushing him on, and his mom walking in on him, and there's some great little moments throughout the movie. Betsy Gorm at Gorm_Betsy says, "An all-time classic and truly one of a kind. Charlie Kaufman and Michel Gondry are a match made in heaven, and I'm so grateful they came together to make this quirky, beautiful movie."
Well said, Bets.
Ra at Rashan Jamal says, "Reluctantly, because I wasn't and still aren't a fan of Jim Carrey's comedy, saw it in theaters and fell in love with it. Over the years, I thought I built it up too much, but I rewatched last year and still loved it. 5 stars."
Whoa.
Wow. Okay, but Rashan, is it a schmovie, a movie, or a film?
Yeah, you let us know.
And do you recommend it?
Yes.
Jamila at Wildcat Tin Wow.
Wow. What?
Michelle's like, "Another connection, a cat."
It's like, what else am I supposed to do on the other end of these, I sit quietly.
Michelle's like, "I'm running out of ammunition here." Jamila says, "Terrific genre blend, an all-around profound and heartfelt movie. Just a really perfect blend in all categories. Kaufman's writing, Gondry's visuals, the performances. I was obsessed with the word lacuna and the concept of a mind swipe machine for a while after watching this. Diabolical, evil schemes done better, at Diabolical Pod.
Yes.
I think this was my first intro to Mark Ruffalo, unless you count me not remembering he was in Due South, and I remember thinking he'd do well. Great performances all around."
Shout out to Mark.
Yeah, Mark Ruffalo in this. Good job. And again, super young. You look at all these people, not a gray hair in sight.
Not even on Tom, maybe.
Tom Wilkinson? No,
Did Howie? Howie had gray hair.
Yeah, he's fully old man.
All right, just trying to give it out.
Michelle's trying to give props to Tom Wilkinson, and I'm coming up like I'm Michael Jordan, like, denied. That shows how little I know about sports, because I'm pretty sure Michael Jordan is not a defender of the basketball goal.
And I don't think he'd say denied, so.
I think that they do. Don't they say, like,
in
not
basketball?
in my house? When they knock the ball out of the hand of the person trying to score.
Don't worry. By September, we're going to know so much about basketball.
I know. Come to our Space Jam live show if you want to hear us talk more about sports in real time.
Wow.
You might even see me do a dunk.
Can't wait.
Sean Shank at Tyler_Burner. I do think that they say not in my house, but anyway.
I'm writing down we need to get a hoop.
Eternal Sunshine has a special and rare universality. If you haven't ever once felt the way the characters do in this movie, being so heartbroken you want to erase a person from your memory, then you've led a very fortunate life.
Wow. So well said.
Sean brings up a really good point that I was going to say, Sean brings up a good point that I thought of, is literally what I was going to say.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
No, I'm going to keep that in.
Okay.
Sean reminded me of something that I thought, which was like Jim Carrey is kind of an interesting choice for this role, because when I watch like The Mask or Dumb and Dumber or Ace Ventura, I cannot relate to that guy at all. Like I can't relate. I don't walk into a room and I'm like, somebody stop me. You know what I mean?
And then like
Right.
move your
Yeah,
face.
exactly. But like this performance feels like somebody that you can relate to. And so I think it's better when you look at like the other stuff that he's done.
Yeah.
And like even like Andy Kaufman, like you can't necessarily relate to that performance.
Right.
So yeah,
That's
it's like
good point. Yeah.
it's a very human,
Mhm.
universal, like Sean said, universal role. The Dagzabah system at Melissa Dags
Melissa Dags.
says a dream of a film in scope and execution. Every performance pitch perfect. I especially love the practical effects and blocking that Gondry used to achieve some of the most surreal moments.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm
How about-
telling you, like, when I hear our listeners or tweeters, whatever we want to call them, friends, write in, they're so well, beautifully said.
Yeah.
I'm just like, why? What? I am literally a thumb giving commentary
Well,
on.
they're only talking for like 10 seconds. Let's see
I
them
know,
do this
but
for
it's
an
so
hour and 18
beautifully
minutes
said.
with
just-
a beanie on.
I'm not commenting on you. I'm not wearing a beanie. I'm just saying, like, they're so well spoken, and I admire that. So, wow.
Oh, you were trying to give them a compliment. Sorry, and I got in the way. Oops.
Yes, I'm giving them a compliment. I'm saying, like, oh, good, push down the beanie. That's helping. I'm just like, yeah, sometimes the way I try to get my words out. I very much admire you guys. That's not you look like you're playing a game of sorry.
Ditto.
Sorry game.
I feel the same way about them. I respect them greatly.
I can't. You gotta change it.
All right. Well, I realized we did this whole episode and I wore this hat to look like Joel, but Joel doesn't wear his hat back on his head. Joel wears his beanie like this throughout the movie. You know what I mean?
I can't breathe. I'm mad. Oh my god. Okay. All right. Okay.
It's back to normal. It's back to normal. Talk about something I wish I could erase.
You could just delete all of this.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll just cut back in and Michelle's crying for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just so beautiful with their words.
I know. All right. So there's some people that we do know. Now we go to a segment of the show where we hear from strangers on the internet. It's called Half Star, 3-Star, 5-Star. So these are reviews from letterboxd.com. We start out with a half-star review, which is the lowest rating that you can give a film. We go all the way up to a 5-star review, which is the highest rating that you can give a film. And the half-star review, I think I'm just going to go British, back to basics.
It's been so long.
Tomorrow, the Brits are holding a general election on the 4th of July. We'll see if there's another revolution or something. I don't know. I don't know enough about British politics to make a joke. I just know that.
Maybe you shouldn't make jokes about government. Any form of government.
You're right. You're right.
You know.
Okay. Half-star review says, This is debatably one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Not a single character is likable. The plot and the timeline is confusing. The effects are annoying, and the dialogue is corny. I hate this movie so much. Half star.
I feel like when people do a British accent, they sound more refined. And you sound like you've been in the pub drinking
I
for
was slipping
hours.
in and out so hard with like Australian on that one
Yeah,
too.
I was like, what? All right, this is the drunk
I just
British
watched an
man.
Australian documentary, in my defense.
Oh.
So there. But anyway,
Okay.
the effects are annoying.
Yeah, what does that mean? Like, I wonder how they annoyed this person.
I don't know how an effect could be annoying.
An effect could be annoying if you have something that's like a blinking light or like affects your sight. I could see that as being annoying, or like loud noise, but that's not really effect. That would be a noise or a visual aspect.
Yeah, this doesn't have. I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of the effects are quite subtle.
Yeah.
You know, even though they're amazing, like they look great, but
Maybe they thought the performance of the characters would the effect. I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, 3-star review says, I've been meaning to reevaluate Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind for a while after having mixed feelings about it years ago. And unfortunately, I don't feel much different today. Cool concept, and the execution was fine, but I just couldn't connect with the story. It's smartly written and the performances were excellent, but it's just not for me.
Okay.
And the 5-star review says, it's rare to watch a film that feels like an embodiment of both pure melancholy and comfort. It's so hard to explain how this film makes me feel, but it's like nothing else. Every time I rewatch this movie, I remember things I'd forgotten without realizing. Certain aspects fade from my mind like a dream, and only when I revisit it can I comprehend the immersive visual dimensions of this cinematic masterpiece.
Wow. Well said.
There's a whole lot there.
There's a whole lot.
And it's very well said. 5 stars.
A lot of words, like big words, film words.
All right, so now we go to a segment of the show where we talk about what we would cut, what we would edit, what we would keep. It's called What the Keck. Michelle, you want to go first?
Are we doing happies and crappies? Are we doing?
We're doing cut, edit, keep. I didn't prepare, so I'm going to think of some.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So I would cut the pillow suffocation scene because it makes me super uncomfortable.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't.
That's
we can
an
cut that
interesting one, huh?
entire memory,
Mm-hmm.
or I would cut completely Rob and Carrey out because as much as I love David Cross, I don't think it's necessary. It doesn't add anything to the story. I would edit the bird scene and maybe just replace the bird with something else. I think we could have the same effect without him feeling pressure to beat a bird.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like that. And I'm keeping the memory of him as a kid and Clem because the effects were really cool there.
So for cutting, I don't think that I would cut anything because even at 2 hours, I thought that this movie flew by. I did not feel the length at all. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I didn't have a problem with the length.
Like I said, I paused it to go to the bathroom and I was like, oh my God, there's like 20 minutes left. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't cut anything. I would edit down some of the story with Mary and Howard.
Yeah.
I know that that's where we end up and that's how everyone gets their tapes back. But I felt like that was a little distracting from Clementine and Patrick and Clementine and Joel.
Mm-hmm.
And then we didn't even talk about this, but probably my favorite scene in the whole movie is when they listen to each other's tapes.
Oh,
first as they're driving. And then when they're in Joel's apartment and they're listening to Joel's tape, and it's like to be like haunted by the ghost of your future relationship ending at the beginning of it is such a great idea. Like that alone makes this movie like worth it. And I would watch a whole movie of just like two people sit down at a table and it's them meeting for the first time. And then they plug in their whatever into their body and it plays for them how they'll feel about each other in like 5 years. I would just love to see that like over and over.
That's an interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that idea.
Yeah. And here it's just so like as he's saying like the hair thing, blah, 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 and he's
I
like, I really, really
know.
like your hair. Like it's so heartbreaking for
Yeah.
him to like hear that and witness her here because it's not just that they're listening to themselves, like they're listening to the other person. Oh my God, it's
Yeah.
great. So I would keep that whole thing.
Yeah, I love that. How did we
Yeah.
not talk about that? I'm glad you brought
Oh,
that
we
up.
did?
Yeah. And even had it written down. And I'm like, I don't need to talk about anything else. Let's talk about David Cross.
All right. So we rate a film as 1 through 5 stars. We say it's a schmovie, a movie, or a film. And then we give our final recommendations and thoughts. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
You can go first.
All right. I will go first. So what did you guess that I was going to
Okay.
rate this?
I wrote down.
Michelle just pulled out an entire notebook and then zoomed in on one tiny little corner, and I still can't read it.
This is literally how I write down my ratings for you every week is in the corner. 3.5 film.
3.5 film. Okay, close. Very close.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that this is 4 stars.
Damn it, I knew it!
Part of the way through, not going to lie, maybe halfway in, I was like, this is not as good as I remember. Or maybe I'm
Ooh.
just a different person. You know, like I said, maybe I'm not a 16-year-old kid, you know, watching this in my basement, cuddling up with my girlfriend. Like maybe I'm just different. And then by the time we get to the end, I'm like, oh, no. This is better.
You know, I was going to write down 4, but I was like, Seth's probably going to do 3.5, which is still a good movie in Seth's eyes.
It absolutely is, yes. So yeah, I'm going to say 4 stars, which to me is a great film, and I'm going to call it a film. I recommend that you watch this with a really open heart. Like, don't bring cynicism and judgment into this film. There are some ideas and weird things in it that might not jive with you, but there's a lot of like good human emotion in this. And like I think a lot of beauty at looking at 2 normal people who aren't perfect and a messy relationship and the beauty that can be in that. So I recommend that.
I agree. Well
For
said.
you, I did write down 4 film.
You are correct. This is a 4-star film in my eyes and heart, and I am recommending this. But along the lines of what you said of like have an open heart when you watch this. I think it's just I after watching this, I'm like, this is like a great movie club movie.
Yeah.
Because it kind of supplies some like really good discussion afterwards.
Yes.
And I really wish I watched it with Aunt. I mean, I can watch it again, but it'll probably be a little while.
Sure.
Yeah. It's a good one, though. I do like this.
Hey, if you're a good one who likes this, we'd love it if you give us a rating and a review. Wherever you're listening, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, Podcast Addict, who knows?
We got a new review, didn't we?
We did get a new review. Would you like me to read it?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Sorry.
What? How am I supposed?
All right, so we got this review from A Ton of Bricks on Apple Podcasts. It says, a true schmodcast. I rate podcasts as either a show, a podcast, or a schmodcast. This is definitely a schmodcast. If you're wondering what that means, you'll know it when you hear it. Listen to Seth and Michelle and occasional guests if you want to understand. 5 stars.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We're a schmodcast.
I'm fine with that, man. Hey.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
This is like Schmovie has made its way weirdly. I forget people know it's a ask. I forget, like to me, it's such in my vernacular, and then I forget. And then when I realized when we did whatever we did that one time, space, where'd we go? Space.
Yeah.
And people were like, I don't really know what a schmovie is. And I was like, oh my God. And full disclosure, friends, I said to Seth the next day, I was like, should we like not do schmovie anymore? Because
should we retire schmovie?
I think I don't want to like kill it, but it truly, it's just, it makes sense. Once you get it, right?
I think, yeah. Clearly A Ton of Bricks gets it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I would love to live to see a day where Schmovie enters the main vernacular of
I mean,
online film talk.
if you're ever in a space with people, Seth, and you hear Schmovie come up,
Oh,
please
I would
text
die.
me.
You can also send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Let us know if you like Dr. Mario, any surgeries that you've had, you know. If you're
Hernias,
listening,
can you tell us what a hernia is and
yeah.
how it works?
If you're listening along to Weirdcast, let us know. And you can support the show, patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. You get access to all of our additional shows. I guess I'll announce it here. I'm excited. I have a series coming up at the end of the summer. Going to be doing a new project called One Director at a Time. And I've enlisted the help of some cool people to help me go through it. And we're going to be going through the films of Quentin Tarantino, one movie at a time. And not just the main 9 movies that he's made. We're going back to his first short film. We're going to include his segment on 4 Rooms. It's going to be a deep dive. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then we've got all of our other stuff. Our Seventh Heaven recap. We already mentioned Weirdcast. We've got our episodes on the films of Studio Ghibli. We've got our episodes on horror movies that I do with my wife. We've got action movies that I do with my mom. Oh my gosh. There's a lot of stuff on there. You also get access to our patron-only Discord, and you get to vote on films each month and monthly themes. It's a whole lot, folks. Quite frankly, I don't know of any other Patreon that gives you more than
Yeah, it's a
ours
lot.
does.
Jam-packed. It's more than my other one, I'll tell you that
It's
much.
incredibly jam-packed, and there's something for everybody over on Patreon. All right, next week. Very exciting.
Yes.
This is your pick for the month.
This is my pick. We are going to 1994, and we're going to be discussing The Mask with Felicia.
Yes.
Cinnamaroni.
We've got a guest coming up.
Cinnamon Noodle.
Very exciting. She's got the Seeing Faces in Movies podcast. They're just finishing up their month on the films of David Cronenberg, which is very exciting.
Very exciting.
And then she's going to come do The Mask with us.
Yeah, I mean, she's a fan of The Mask. She's a fan of Jim Carrey.
Huge
and
fan.
fellow Canadian.
Yeah. I can't wait to be tag teamed by the two of you and brought to task for not loving this movie.
We will see how I feel about it too, because it's been a while.
Wow. Can you imagine if we're just tag teaming Felicia?
Oh, man.
Jumping from the top rope?
What a warm welcome.
I know. By the way, we both hate this. Oops.
My bad. No, I look forward to rewatching this. We're going to see some comedic work from Jim Carrey, Cameron Diaz as well.
Cameron Diaz.
I was talking to a couple of friends about this a couple of weeks ago, and they were like, yeah, it doesn't hold up. And so I'm, whatever. I'll keep that in mind, but try not let it ruin my experience watching this time around.
Absolutely. Hey, I mean, this is sitting at a 3.3 on Letterboxd, so can't be that terrible, right? I mean,
yeah, and the dog is a Jack Russell. Isn't that dog a Jack Russell? Which goes through my whole rant about Jack Russells having a moment in the 90s.
Yes, it does. And the director's last name is Russell.
Stop it.
That's right, folks. The Mask from 1994, directed by Chuck Russell, 101 minutes. And I have it currently streaming on the Roku channel for free.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Okay. Wow.
All right. Very exciting. 2 down.
I hope you come in costume next week.
For The Mask? Yeah. I'll
just paint your face green.
That would actually be...
and you show up as an alter ego.
That would be pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay, good.
I will give you one smoking.
Practice, because you're going to read the half-star review.
Well, I was going to say, I'm probably going to have to read it as The Mask. Ugh. Great. Anyway. Well, thanks, Michelle.
Thank you, Seth. This was really fun to revisit. Thanks for choosing this.
I'm glad.
Yeah, this was good. This was a good one.
All right, folks. Thank you very much for listening, wherever you are, whoever you are. whenever you are. And until next time, have a good one.
Movie Friends is produced by Seth Vargas and Michelle Rubenstein. Music by Anthony Pecora. If you like the show, please subscribe and give us a rating. It really helps us find new friends. Thanks!